I was asked in a private message, so I won't reveal the name, about the Palmarian Church, or Palmarian Catholic Church. And I said, I've never heard of them before. I'll check them out. Thank you. Exact words were, I was wondering, by any chance, if you knew anything about the Palmarian Church and how are they viewed by the wider Catholic and Orthodox Church. I just found out about them and haven't found much as far as information about them, and I wanted to know any info on this group would be helpful. Thank you. I saw there's Wikipedia, and then there was a bunch of Roman Catholic stuff. Now, the views of the Roman Catholic and the Eastern Orthodox, our views have not been the same, arguably, since the 4th century or 5th century, but have definitely clashed and are now, one doesn't speak for the other since about 1,000 years. About 1054 is when the official break happened. But that was the papal primacy and the filioquit were the straws that broke the camel's back, so they don't speak for each other in any way. The Palmarian Church, according to Wikipedia, which is pretty much the only thing I have to go off of, and at least it can be revised by people or checked, whereas somebody's blog spot can't. So for this, and this only reason, I'm using Wikipedia as the highest authority, since I can't find anything by the Palmarian Church. And it was started in the 1960s. It started in 1968 with this revelation from these 3 young girls, this view of the operation of the Virgin Mary. And then nothing happened with that. The church said, yeah, there's nothing to that, don't worry about it. And then later on, there was this dude, I'm not going to go through the whole history, but essentially he broke off from the Roman Catholic Church under Paul VI, and even though apparently Paul VI had excommunicated them and chastised them, they claim, no, that's not Paul VI saying it, that's wicked cardinals that imprisoned him in the Vatican. They, for us, would be considered blasphemous heretics. Why? And if this is true on here. Now, the Palmarian Church reformed its rites and its liturgy, which previously had been styled in the Tridentine form, which is again a revised form of their earlier Latin liturgy before Trent, yeah, I think it was at Trent where that came about. The Palmarian liturgy was reduced to almost solely the Eucharist, words of consecration. That's kind of how we see the Western thing, but not so much. We wouldn't be as harsh. But this is where it really gets, where they've, boom, total heretic. Not only schismatic, but heretic, and blasphemous heretic at that. The See of Palmar, of El Palmar de Troya, has also declared the real presence of the Virgin Mary and the Sacred Host and the bodily assumption of Saint Joseph to be dogmas of the Catholic faith. 2000, they had their own revised version of the Bible. Dominguez on the claim, prophetic authority, and it says the other traditionalist Catholics totally reject them and consider the Palmarian Church to be heretics. Good for them. Good for the traditionalists. Now, the first church that started by this Dominguez character, the first one to kick this off, he named his successor, and his successor was 2 Peter. Now, the only time that a successor was named in any patriarchate or authority was Jesus to Peter, so that's very suspect right there. But the Eastern Orthodox, I love the Virgin Mary. I love Theotokos. She's Our Lady. She's a vicious warrior for her children, and she's compassionate and will pray for anybody, and does pray for the entire world. We do not worship her. That is forbidden We do not believe in the Assumption. We do not believe in the Immaculate Conception. We do not call her co-mediatrix or co-redemptrix, although due to poor translation and people not being meticulous in translating and realizing that co-mediatrix doesn't mean intercessor, we find in some translations done by people who speak English very poorly and can only really speak Arabic, they'll not only call her co-mediatrix, they say mediatrix. Because again, in English, mediator and intercessor are two radically different things, right? But to say the real presence of the Virgin Mary in the host, which we have the Eucharist, the host means hostia, which is sacrificial victim, a sacrificial animal, basically. It wasn't from Latin, but other Eastern Orthodox may connect a pagan connection with that. I'm not going to at all, because language is language. I mean, there's Thursday and Friday, and it doesn't mean we pray to Freya and Thor, or Saturn on Saturday. But it's a slap in the face to the Theotokos, the Blessed Virgin Mary, Our Lady, to worship her, to add her as a part of the Trinity, like the Calvinists did, to declare her a real part of the Eucharist, the most important thing about the Theotokos is that she's just a woman. She's just any old woman. But she was mankind's just towards God. Where Eve, in her disobedience, ushered death into the world, Theotokos, through her obedience, ushered life into the world. She is the Ark of the Covenant for us. Everything that we can say about the Ark of the Covenant, we can say about her. And clearly the writer of Luke had it in mind that she was the Theotokos was the Ark of the Covenant. Now, when you make her into a goddess, it's a slap across the face, and it actually reduces anything. It's nothing for a goddess to give birth to God or the Son of God. She then doesn't struggle. She then doesn't have, she never suffered pain in her life, and there was never, she never had doubt and faith, and they make her into this, almost this meditating infinite Buddha or something. Not a real person. In the Gospels, you can see she's a concerned mother. You're crazy. People are going to think you're crazy. Come back home. She even brings, his sisters and his brothers. That could be his cousins or whatever. That's not the issue. But she's a concerned mother. So this stuff is very offensive to us, to the Eastern Orthodox, because our love for the Theotokos is because she was just a young, scared Palestinian girl, and her land was occupied by foreigners from Europe, kind of like today, present-day Palestine. And because she was just, God saw from the infinite of time that she was more blessed than all women. All generations shall call you blessed. And her yes to God, and her having to worry and take care of the Logos incarnate, and even she stuck by him in his death. The apostles, they ran away, So people think, oh yeah, Peter, he's tough, he chopped off a guy's ear. Or Paul, no, the real badass is the Theotokos, is Our Lady, the Virgin Mary, Maria. So when people screw around with her like this and start adding stuff about her, it really pisses us off, because it's an offense to her. Or to say, well, I worship the Virgin Mary, or her suffering also brings about our redemption, or she's part of the Eucharist. It's slapping her across the face, because the only thing the Virgin Mary ever does is point to Christ. That's why of Western icons after the break, after 1054, we don't accept. There is one that we do accept, that the Orthodox Church does accept, and it's the Virgin of Guadalupe. Why? Because when Juan Diego, his message was that the Theotokos said to her, follow my son, and that's it. There was no mystery, there was no secrets, there was no endorsement of doctrines and dogmas that were new or trying to push stuff through. It was simply that, and said, yeah, that image and that message, absolutely. And she was even called by the Aztec name of the people there, so there wasn't any erasing of culture. It was brought to them in their own understanding. Amen. You know, yeah, okay. And so we accept that's the one icon and the one apparition or whatever of the West that the Orthodox Church says, yes, we do accept that. I love the Virgin of Guadalupe. She is the Virgin for all of Americans, from Canada to Argentina. You know, I mean, Brazil has theirs, their Virgin and El Nino, they whatever, I don't know what it is, or Do, or I don't speak Portuguese, but and they're the Virgin of Washington D.C. and stuff like that. But at the time of Guadalupe, it was Juan Diego. These were Aztecs and Mayans, and it would catch on. And even people in Puerto Rico have, you know, Guadalupe, and Miami. It's for all of the land, the Americas. This is Our Lady. She came to us, for the mestizos, not just for the Aztecs, but for the Mayans, for the Inca, for the Nazca, for the Navajo, for the Aleut and Inuit, and Algonquin, for the mestizo, for the mulatto, for the blacks, for the Europeans, for the Celts, for the anybody living in this land, for the Jamaicans. That's God's message to us. Follow my son. So it is a slap across the face to add this stuff. It is almost to make an enemy of Theotokos. And it's offensive. So they think they're elevating her. Well, you detract from Christ, you've made an enemy of the Theotokos. One of the fiercest warriors you could possibly imagine spiritually.